7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Marlon Barnes.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Harris. Division 4, Justin Lane.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourcewell.
Thank you. That brings us to item 4, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt the agenda. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Item 5, public comment period. If anybody in the audience would like to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda, please feel free to do so now. Item 6, presentation and workshop on fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. Dwayne?
Thank you, Vice President Dias and members of the board. It's my pleasure to provide this presentation to you on the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget. Let's start off the presentation by going over a little bit the mission statement. The mission of AVEK is to deliver reliable, sustainable, and high-quality supplemental water to the region in a cost-effective and efficient manner. This budget was prepared with those guiding principles as premise. To give you an idea of some of the things that we're proposing to go over with you today is we have some graphs showing some historical perspective of some metrics associated with the agency, water sales, and so forth. Then we'll get into the proposed AVEK budget, look at revenues, expenses, the various assumptions. We'll go over with the board the projected water, high desert water bank activity. We'll go over the capital improvement plan budget and the information technology budget. And finally, at the very end, review the reserves that we will start out with and what we'll end up with the proposed budget. So with that in mind, we'll move forward. You've seen this graph previously, and what this graph shows is the amount of water that's available for delivery or available for sale by AVEK by the blue line, and the gold line is the amount of water that is sold. So you can see that in these 3 of the last 4 years, we've had very wet years, and we had quite a bit of water available for sale. And you can also see that there's a increase in the amount of water sold over the last 3 or 4 years. You can see earlier in 2009, 2010, we had more water, but there was instances where we actually sold more than we had available, and that's when water banking came into play. So it's an interesting graph. We'll continue to track this year by year to help us better understand water sales and deliveries. So this graph here shows a total water sales in dollars. And from here you can see that the height of our water sales was 12-13. That's when we were actually doing some water banking, so that's a little skewed. But you can see that early in the year, 2010, 2011, we had much greater water sales than we do now. So as far as dollar-wise goes, but you can see since 2015, which was the low point, we've had a steadily increase in the amount of revenue that's associated with our water sales. And we're right about that $26, $27 million bracket. Property tax revenue, this graph shows our property tax revenues over the last 10 years. And once again, here's our low point, 2011, 2012. And you can see that there's been a steady increase in assessed property values and corresponding revenue associated with that, because our tax rate hasn't changed. It's just the assessed value of the properties that are assessed have increased. we take a look, we also track what our state water contract fixed costs are. And you can see, well, there's a little bit of movement in these costs. They've been relatively stable in the last 2 or 3 years. A lot of that is associated with this 2016 bump in costs was fairly significant, and state water contractors have done a good job of trying to control some EWR costs that were a little unrealistic in their budget. And then our particular operating costs, you can see how they have corresponded to the amount of water that we've been able to produce, and you can see how those costs have increased over time. This is probably my favorite graph, and it shows the difference between water sales and expenses, operating expenses. The green bar is the operating expenses, and the blue bars are actual water sales. You can see in the 2009, 10, 11 water sales more than compensated, or the amount of revenue we received from water sales compensated for the cost of expenditures. That changed through the drought period, but these gold bars, or gold portion of these bars, are the outside transfers and water sales that we've done to other agencies over the last 5 years. And as you can see, these particular water sales have really helped to compensate for the operating expenses that the agency has incurred. So it's been quite beneficial, those outside water sales, in order to be able to balance our project moving forward. So with that bit of background, we'll move into a little more detail about the 2019-2020 budget. Here's some of the assumptions. We estimated the property tax revenue based on our actual property taxes that we received in 18-19. Although we do expect some increases of approximately 5.6% in LA County, 1.1 million, and 6.2% in Kern County. Those are not guaranteed, so we have not included those in our revenue projections. The agency's policy for many years has been to be very conservative with regards to revenues, and very conservative with regards to expenses, and that's a prudent way to move forward. We're assuming 50,000 acre-feet of water sales from the State Water Project, and then we are anticipating revenues which we are contractually obligated to receive this fiscal year of $4.875 million from Homer and San Gregorio Pass in the city of Palmdale, and $2.3 million from Nickel Water. These revenues are guaranteed, so they've been included in the budget. We do anticipate that as the water year progresses, that there may be additional water sale opportunities to other agencies to compensate for those costs. Consistent with our 5-year financial plan, we've included a 7.5% water sales rate increase. We did, so that's included in the budget. The Finance Committee wanted staff to review the cost of living adjustment, and the cost of living adjustment is 3.6%. That's based on Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim area. We did request an opinion from Brett Ellis, our financial consultant, who suggested that that was the most appropriate cost of living adjustment for the agency given our location. However, there is a new gauge for the Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ontario area. It started in 2018 as a result of the 2010 census. That made a cost of living number is 3.04%. So based on that particular input, when the board, if they should choose to adopt the budget, to select the appropriate cost of living adjustment to be associated with that, between those two ranges. And then finally, a little bit of good news with regards to some of our health insurance premium costs, 8.5% for the Blue Cross and 7% for Kaiser. Given the past few years of double-digit increases, this is and 0 for dental and vision. That's a good, relatively good discussion. So, in taking a look at a little bit of analysis between the budget and the actuals for 2018 and 19 before we move forward, we had budgeted revenues of $70.5 million. Our actual revenues were 78.4, which is 11.3% above what we had budgeted. We had budgeted expenses of $60.7 million. Our actual expenses came in at $55.8 million, which was 8.1% below the budgeted expenses. So we were a good place to be, 11% above our budgeted for revenue and 8.1% below on our expenses. Looking at a difference between the 2019 and 2020 budget versus the 2018 and 19, you can see that the budgeted revenues for 2019 and 20 are at 74.08 million, whereas the 2018-19 budget revenues were at 3.7, so that's about a 5.1% increase, about $3.5 million in increase we're anticipating on revenues. But the 2019-20 budgeted expenses are 64.7 million versus last year at 60.7 million, which is a 6.6 increase in the budgeted expenses of approximately 4 million. So in essence, our revenues and our expenses have pretty close to being balanced with this particular analysis. So at this point, I'd like you to you have before you in your packet a 8.5 by 11 sheet that goes over the
Can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
I'd like to address some of the things you said.
Sure.
Okay, let's go back to item 5,000 on our book here. I'll move our book.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. This is that's what you were talking about, correct? I mean, the budget?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to follow that and follow this. I mean, it's like,
Okay. I mean, some of the presentation wasn't in the book, so.
okay, so, but I'm gonna go back to item number 5,000 in our books, where it says water purchases. A couple questions on that. It shows $11 million in 2018, 2019, and then it shows 12 million budget, and the next year you're calculating $13.850 million.
Water purchases. Yes.
Yeah, but what is interesting is that it doesn't show much of a differential from Homer, because Homer's spending all that money on there. So is that
The Homer number is located in 4,300 under water transfers and exchanges under revenues.
what number?
4,300, just under operating revenues, just above the 5,000.
Okay, so Homer's up there. Okay.
That's where that 7.2 million is inclusive of, because it's a revenue portion. Whereas the 5,000 water purchases, that's what we anticipate we're going to pay to DWR for the purchasing of the water, or the costs of bringing the water down. Transportation costs.
The other question regarding that 5,000 again is, what factor are you using to to increase the water, cost of water, you're just gonna use the 7% until we get, Apatelis to come back and tell us that's a fixed number?
Right, we're using the water rate, we're anticipating 7.5%. That was indicated in the 5-year financial plan, and that's what's included in the water. If you look at 4100 at the very top there, under water sales, that's the actual revenue that we will get from water sales from our customers locally. And so we're anticipating $33 million based on their anticipated request for water deliveries, and that's where that 7.5% is included in that number. You get that 33 million.
Okay, then part 3.
Sure.
Of that net 5,000. We have discussed on the board that we're going to use or pay. Are we anticipating those factors in here yet, or are we going to come back?
We're going to come back after Raptelis goes through the rate structure analysis.
So that's part of their, okay.
That's once the board adopts that, then we'll make revision to the budget associated with that.
Okay. Then, okay, so let's go down to 4,400, the property tax revenue.
Right.
It shows this year 32 million, 596. When I go for next year, you show the taxes going down. Why is that?
It's not necessarily taxes going down, it's just our anticipated revenue that we're going to receive is we're budgeting at $31,100,000, and that's based on the actual taxes that we received.
So how do we get 32 million? I'm just
That's a good question. Maybe you can help me out. Come on up.
come up here.
The year-to-date actual number, the year-to-date actual number doesn't include my accrual adjustment yet. I haven't received the LA County report, so I expect there to be an accrual adjustment once that report comes in.
So until you get the report, you're just,
I'm looking at what I've received for the fiscal year and based it off of that, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So we should see a higher number when the.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I do read this.
I can see you. That's good. That's good. There's a lot of work that goes into this. So it's very nice. Very nice to hear that. And moving a little bit more into this, you can see that for the 2019-2020 budget, we anticipate total operating revenues of approximately $40.5 million. Total operating expense at $36.4 million. Our non-operating revenues, which is associated with tax revenues, investment income, and other income, is 33. We receive in our preliminary 2018-19 $39.7 million, and that's associated. Most of that's difference is associated with a one-time payment that we received from Chahon Ranch for all of that water exchanges we did earlier in 2012, 2013, where those final payments were made to the agency. So those are one-time revenues that we would anticipate occurring again, because that obligation has been paid up. So that's majority of what you see going through that realm right there. So. And then our total non-operating expenses at $28.3 million. So total revenues of a little over $74 million, and total expenses of $64.7 million. You look at the balance.
Dwayne, one thing, why, item 4,500, why is our investment income dropping so far for the next year?
The investment income, well, it's we're in a kind of a downward market with regards to the interest rates, so we're being conservative with our projections for interest income. If we've gone from 1%, climbed up to a little over 2%, but then we're seeing it begin to track downward again. And so in predicting what we're going to get to last year, we looked at an increase over the previous budgeted amount, and then the actual rate of return will be developed off of that. We just want to assume that we're going to get more money on investment income than we actually are receiving.
On our investments, on the same note, is our investments adjust every quarter, or once a year, or just daily?
Well, daily is various investments become available, and we have an account with Wells Fargo and with who's the other one? PFM. Those accounts, those account amounts vary on a daily basis. We provide you through the Finance Committee and the Board a monthly financial report to confirm with you the amount that all those accounts are accruing interest associated with those various investments that we've made. So once again, it's an issue where we're trying to be fairly conservative on the revenues so we don't get caught short, and being very liberal on the expenses to make sure that we certainly have enough to operate the agency without having to rebudget or redo various items. And I'm on the next page, which is page 6 of 18, something new that we've added, and I'm sorry that Board President Sorsable wasn't here because this is a particular request of hers, and that was to have department budgets. And so what we've done is taken the operating budget, which is $36.4 million, and we've allocated that amongst the 4 departments so that the operation and maintenance department, the engineering, laboratory, administration will each have separate budgets that they'll administer to. So when changes are made within those budgets, they will adjust the particular line items that you see here in order to make sure that they're on task and on budget with the work that they're doing in the various departments. And that's in response to that request.
Hey, Dwayne, I've got a question on that page. The total operating expenses in the right-hand column
Correct.
should be the total of all the numbers to the left of it, right?
It should be, yes.
Okay, it looks like it is.
Yes. Our spreadsheet worked out right.
Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll move on to the next item. And by the way, this sheet here has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and they're recommending approval and moving forward on the operating and the non-operating budget. The next item for consideration is on page 8 of 18 out of the book, and that corresponds to the proposed capital improvement plan for the next fiscal year. You can see that we have several maintenance projects, and this particular list of projects was gone over in detail with the capital improvement committee. And so you can see that we're anticipating $405,000 in maintenance projects for the Quartz Hill Water Plant. You look at the Roseman Water Plant, we're looking at $120,000 in maintenance work to be done. The East Side Water Treatment Plant at $165,000. And then miscellaneous work on various turnouts and other particular matters, about $200,000. And the big item has to do with some portable generators and some other equipment associated with transfers and switchgear associated with getting emergency generators to make the agency more ready for a particular emergency. And there's some particular discussion about this during the capital improvement plan committee, where we moved from 2 generators to 4 generators, even though there's a typo on the top one. We forgot to change that from 2 to 4. The numbers are correct, but we didn't make that change. So
You're talking about EN 1-20?
yes, EM 1-20. That's for 4. That's what the
Yeah, I like
committee
that.
requested.
Yeah, so what happened was, John, operations manager, and the staff, the committee was hashing this thing over. And if there was a catastrophe of any sort, trying to get those to rent or borrow, well, then we go back. If the catastrophe is in Los Angeles, they'll strip all that stuff from up here and take it down there first because of the population. So, and you're not going to build these things in any normal time. So by having these available to all the different facilities, whatever happened down there, we don't depend on it. And that's what it's basically.
Exactly what it is it provides, we did an analysis and review of the critical facilities that would be necessary in order to maintain and provide water on a minimal basis, health and safety type support to various locations in the
Well, there's
system.
another thing, you gotta say it. I know it sounds like a political thing here, but tell me what happened with Edison.
Yes.
I mean, this is very important because
Sure.
it isn't like, it's not a joke. This is actually asinine what they said, but you gotta hear this.
Yes, and as part of the Southern California Edison and also PG&E, because of their bankruptcy, what they are doing is having now blackouts in various grids. And we've had several notices where we would be shut off for hours at a time if there's a high wind condition or there's any kind of problem weather-wise that would potentially have them start a fire associated with their high generation lines, so they're turning the electricity off. And we've had several of those notifications over the last year, and quite frankly, it gets pretty alarming when you're in the heat of the summertime and they decide it's time to turn off the power for 8 hours or whatever it could be. So these kinds of these generators we place in those critical locations so that we can mitigate that problem.
And any place where there's an existing fire, it'll be off, but if it's going in that direction, they're shutting all that power off too.
Yeah, the biggest thing's high winds, and gosh knows we get a bunch of those. So anytime the wind gets over a certain level, they're going to start looking at turning off your power. So.
Yeah.
And it's a liability issue.
Did we get a discount on that? We asked about warranties. What's the story on that? Yeah, can you? John?
Yeah, we're part of the, it's called NFPA. So these normally are about $350,000 each. We're getting them for about $287,000 each, being part of this organization. We're guaranteed they have 2 they can give us by probably end of November, a 3rd one by end of December. The 4th one will probably go into 2020 because there are water agencies, hospitals, they're all buying these things up and they can't make them fast enough, so.
What a bad business.
But,
And it's regulated, it's something we created,
And these run off of what, electric?
they're diesel.
Diesel?
Yeah, they're diesel.
diesel powered and.
Yeah, we do get the discounted price.
And what about warranties? Anything about all those things?
It comes with a standard warranty, and we will look at an extended warranty. The 2 that we have been very, very good. We have them serviced by McCormick Diesel once a year, so they're always ready to run. But we'll look into extended warranty too.
One of the other major maintenance project that's necessary for us to move forward with this next year is the GAC filter media replacement. It's about 12 filters here at the Port Seal plant. It's approximately 50% of our area. We've already replaced the GAC last year in Roseman, and we're anticipating doing some more next year over here at Port Seal, and then out to the east side the following year. So we're trying to rotate some of those major expenses around. And then the balance of the capital improvement program is items that will go to bid through the engineering department. Once again, the big item there is associated with the underground piping for the West Side Water Bank and various projects that were reviewed by the committee, added up to $6.2 million. The committee recommends approval. We do have in the following pages a description of each project for the next 4 pages for those projects that we're recommending for approval in the capital improvement program. And the capital projects committee did, as I say, review this in some detail and is recommending approval of this project list. Happy to answer any questions. Do you have any other specifics about the projects that are contained in the capital improvement program? Seeing none, we'll move on to the last item. This would be page 16 of 18 in your book, and it's the IT and planning projects for fiscal year 2019-20. This is a much smaller list of projects. We got IT1 through IT4 associated with SCADA, document management, asset management software, GIS information systems. These are all part of that multi-year improvement in our geographic and IT program that we have going for us to upgrade our current operations into current standards for utilizing computers in SCADA system. Also, we have some planning projects associated with the water system master plan, a CEQA document for the master plan, capacity fee study that Reptelis is proposed to do for us later this year, and then the emergency operations center and local hazard mitigation plan. I will note that the local hazardous mitigation plan, $200,000 in the expenditures, we're anticipating a grant to be able to cover those costs from Townsend Associates. We made that an application, we'll wait to hear back on that. So there will be a corresponding revenue associated with that expenditure. And once again, the IT and Planning Committee reviewed this list of projects and recommended them as appropriate to move forward with. And there's a corresponding description of each one of these projects in the packet for you to look at and review. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is the cash reserves. So if we go over this little slide here, we can talk about where our cash reserves are, and that's assuming that we do all the things that we talked about in the budget here. We begin with a cash reserve balance of $108 million. Required minimum reserve, according to our reserve policy, is $62.2 million. That is associated with an excess cash reserves of $45 million. If we include the carryover from the previous budget year of $9.3 million, and then we subtract out the capital and the IT expenditures, and we reduce our principal payments that we have to make for our debt, And then we assume, as we did last year, $5 million that's available for water banking. You can see that we have excess of $34.8 million in reserves. However, if the board remembers, our reserve policy has a minimum and they have a maximum reserves. And if you use our maximum reserves, that leaves $7.7 million that's available, that is unallocated. So we're well within our reserve policy numbers for where we want to be. We wanted to, and we will add $8.3 million associated with the High Desert Water Bank. As soon as that contract gets signed by with Metropolitan, they've agreed to refund this $8.3.2 million, which will go back into our reserves to add to those reserves when that contract is signed, and we anticipate that will happen in the next 30 to 60 days without any problem whatsoever. And so we end up at the end of, in June of 2020 with $105 million in cash reserve versus 108 is where we are today. So given we haven't anticipated any additional water sale transfers or anything else that might enhance revenue, we think we're going to be at a fairly neutral process as far as cash reserves moving forward. So our budgeting and our process. The good news is the agencies are really relationship.
I'll take a lot less oxygen once we get the net contract signed.
Well, the great thing is we have it back from Metropolitan, so it's in its second iteration, which is very small. So like I say, as soon as their attorneys approve it, we'll bring it directly to the board for approval, and it'll be done. So we need a motion to consider. We need three motions. One to approve the operating budget, which is 7A1. 7B1 would be adopting the capital improvement plan, and 7C1 would be planning committee approval for the information technology.
Do I have to do each one at a time, or can I do all three?
You have to do one at a time.
Can I move on board order 7A1 that we approve adopting the fiscal year 2019-20 operation budget?
I'll say. I just have one comment.
Sure.
Yes, just to clarify, I was late coming in here, but I was on the phone listening into all the conversation up until the time I took my seat, so I've not missed any part of the conversation or the presentation.
Great, thank you.
Just so you know, so that it's on the record when I do go ahead and vote on it.
Very good. Thanks for calling.
Who did the second? Colin?
Any more discussion or questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll move on to board order 7B1.
A second.
Any more discussion or questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Board order 7C1.
I also move on that.
A second.
Any more discussion or questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carried also. That brings us to item number 8, closed session. Do we have an item to discuss?
Closed session. Before we move to closed session, I just want to publicly thank the staff for the hard work that they put in preparing this budget. We keep asking for more things for them to report on. The report is getting longer and longer. We're going to continue to add to it. But I do want to show my appreciation for all of their work.
I agree. Their effort is very obvious. This is a very smooth process.
I concur with Dwayne. When the finance committee met with them, we had a lot of questions on all this stuff. Especially the generators, we picked them apart, you know, see if it was really warranted to have them, but, you know, what do you do in a catastrophe? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know, personality. John did a really good job investigating this. As you can see, he saved us a lot of money on these generators. As you can see, I guess we were too far off because we can't get our fourth one until next year.
Right.
So everybody's thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
So, did a really good job with the staff and also our new people who've been promoted and moved in within our agency. It's working very well.
Okay.
Motion to close session?
Yes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're going to close session right now.